With Pixar's Soul only a few weeks away, I thought now would be the perfect time to revisit some beloved Disney classics. So today, I'm going to rank all 8 films within Disney's Silver Age. Starting off at number 8 is the one film on this list that I just never really connected to, and that's Alice in Wonderland. So this is basically a fish out of water story dripped in acid. It's a tale of a sweet girl following the white rabbit into the rabbit hole, mainly out of boredom and curiosity. The film is basically a series of random events with no real tie for a coherent story or narrative or arc for Alice other than realizing she isn't where she should be. And if you saw my ranking video on the Golden Age films, you'll know that I'm not really a fan of such movies. Sure, they're cute, they're charming, they're classics, but when revisiting them, that doesn't mean I won't have critiques. They're meant for children, and as a children's film, I can see it doing its job of engaging them, but that's it. There's no real lesson here other than be careful of your own imagination. This one reminds me of this kid's book, The Phantom Tollbooth, but it lacks the lesson in the end, which is a love for learning. I guess one good lesson you could draw from Alice in Wonderland is stand up for yourself in a world full of bullies. Sandbox bullies. But I feel like that would have been better executed if we saw Alice struggling with the bully in the real world before coming to Wonderland. Moving on to number 7 is, unfortunately, The Sword in the Stone. I adored this film when I was a kid. If you asked me at a certain phase of my life what my favorite movie was, it was Sword in the Stone. It has great music, it's a great introduction into the lore of Merlin and King Arthur. There's just great life portrayed in this film. However, for similar reasons to Alice and Dumbo, I have it further down on my list. It's just a series of random events with no obvious character arc. I'm not saying that there aren't any character arcs, I'm just saying that you really have to dig to find one. The film basically revolves around Merlin taking on Arthur as his ward of sorts. And what does he teach him? He teaches him about being a fish, and then a squirrel, and then a bird. Until we finally see how this sort of all comes together to teach us how we can use our knowledge to outsmart the bad guy. It felt like they were so focused on these animal shorts that when they got to the end, they realized, oh crap, we forgot about the sword. Guys, we forgot about the sword! Then they just shove it in the last 5 minutes of the film. Arthur pulls the sword from the stone, he becomes king, and Merlin returns from a vacation from the 20th century where they make a joke about it, and then the film, it just ends. It's just over. Like, what? Okay, moving on to 6 and into more average territory, I have Cinderella. A great classic, Disney starting off their Silver Age with another beloved fairy tale. We all know the story. A nice pretty girl is basically enslaved by her stepmother until her fairy godmother comes to help save the day and get her to the ball where she and the prince fall madly in love. She has to leave, the prince has to find her, and then they live happily ever after. It's cute, there's gorgeous music, and Disney proves yet again that little animals can be adorable, even rats or mice. I have this one at number 6 because I see it as a super safe film. The story is straightforward and simple, but the characters all do their jobs very well. We love Cinderella and we want her to have her prince, and we hate the stepmother and want her to get what she deserves. It's relatively short compared to films nowadays, and yet 10 minutes of this film is designated to the mice tormenting this evil cat, which is hilarious and will keep kids engaged. It's just another random thing that Disney thought was essential for their film. So, yeah. Next up at number 5 is Lady and the Tramp. This is a spectacle of animation. I feel like Disney was really flexing with this film. We have absolutely gorgeous scenery and settings throughout it, and when you consider that the lead characters are animals with a huge amount of life in them compared to previous ones like Bambi or Dumbo, this film is nothing short of remarkable. I do think this film could have served better as a short film, like maybe 40 to 45 minutes. However, I was still fascinated enough to stay tuned. I definitely did not think it was worthy of a live-action remake, but the remake on Disney Plus genuinely surprised me for the better. The ending to this film is beautiful, and the key love song Bella Notte really makes you swoon over what Disney has done, putting this comfortably in the middle of my list. And sharing the middle, although slightly above, at number 4 is Sleeping Beauty. I don't know what it is exactly about this film, but it just feels like there is more going on. It feels like there is more to latch onto. I think this is the one that actually could have benefited from more time spent with the characters. The prince is kind of a faceless hero in the end, and Aurora is put out of the story for the latter half or so, and yet that odd balance is what makes this film somewhat more extraordinary than the other classics. We get to spend an equal amount of time with all the characters, the villain Maleficent included, and while their quirks and qualities that make them special aren't the best of the best in my opinion, they served their purpose and kept me engaged in the story. I think this film is full of great building blocks for the fairy tale and fantasy genres. It hits this nice balance, and that balance elevates the movie where other parts are rather stale. All in all, Sleeping Beauty was the surprise classic that I realized I was sleeping on. But kicking off our top 3 is actually a tie between Peter Pan and The Jungle Book, 2 fantastic films that elevated the genre and the art of animation, giving us memorable characters, fine tunes, and lasting impressions of story. Now, I won't cheat 100%, I'll give my favorite of the 2 as of today. However, I think it would be a disservice not to note how incredibly close these 2 films are for me. The sense of adventure and family that both of these films give is what I look for in animation and what other films should strive to achieve. I'd say that if you are captivated more by sing-alongs and animal friends, then you're probably more of a fan of The Jungle Book. On the other hand, Peter Pan really nails that sense of adventure and fantastical worlds. I do think Peter Pan is a little bit stronger with its character work with Wendy than The Jungle Book is with Mowgli, although Baloo and Bagheera definitely steal the spotlight at certain moments. However, I've always been drawn to Peter Pan a little bit more, so if I had to pick one, that'd be the one I go with for number 2. But putting all to shame at number 1 is 101 Dalmatians. Now, I know that this film made a huge impression on me when I was a kid. I have dozens of pictures of me with Dalmatian paraphernalia, but when going into my rewatch of it, I had very low expectations for it. I thought it would just be another cute, although lacking dog movie, especially compared to how much I enjoyed Lady and the Tramp. However, there is so much to love about this film. I have not laughed harder during my Disney Classics rewatch than with this film. Its commentary on dogs and its ability to capture the magic and charm of a dog's mind is genuinely wonderful as much as it is satirical. It's a relatable film in that anybody who has a dog can definitely relate to the behavior portrayed in this film. It's like Inside Out, but for dogs. All that, coupled with amazing jazz music sprinkled throughout, memorable characters, especially Cruella de Vil, and a plot that really makes you care, easily makes this my number 1 film in the Disney Silver era. Well, that's my list. Don't forget to share yours in the comments below, and for extra brownie points, give me your ranking of the new Disney live-action remakes for all the films in this video. I think so far they've done Jungle Book, Cinderella, Lady and the Tramp, 101 Dalmatians, and Alice in Wonderland. Pan does not count, although I know that they are working on a new live-action remake for Peter Pan. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you all next time.